Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. I've got a fun topic for today's video. We often talk about power creep in this game. New characters just getting more and more powerful, and many of our old favorites fading into a forgotten past and never being seen again. However, sometimes they are seen again, and some champions have seen a bit of a resurgence. Some champions that are arguably bad, some champions that are certainly good. I've got a bit of a mixed list here, so without any further ado, let's dive in. I think you'll see where I'm going when we start going through the list, but let's begin. Champions that we once thought maybe we wouldn't be using again, that suddenly got a new lease on life. Well, one of the classics, I'm going to him for my first pick, and that's Hegemon. So Hegemon came out. He was a god back in the old days because he always goes first. So he goes first, and he could either lock out the enemy team with block active skills or a stun set. He could A1 for Evil Eye, stun set, magic, or he could be built for damage and just blow them up. And then one dark and terrible day, the Hydra heads arose, and the Stone Skin set arrived. And yeah, I mean, Hegemon is one I've talked about, I'm sure, many times on the channel as being one of the biggest victims of power creep in the entire game. From arguably the best champion in Arena for a good while, he suddenly became effectively useless. Everyone is in Stone Skin, you'd never use this guy. Now, funny thing is, I actually use Hegemon in live Arena, and I've had him used against me as well. This is a champion. You don't pick him every fight, far from it. But he is an absolute monster in certain matchups. And in fact, almost essential for an account to really give you a strong way to fight back. And it's very simple. Number one, Stone Skin is less strong than it used to be. I mean, there was a time where it was the Taras Marishka meta for, 2 years or so? And that was all you saw. Taras, Marishka, Stone Skin, UDK, very slow. Not the case anymore, where speed champions are insanely strong and mythicals. And Pinpoint set has really opened up the meta. And Hegemon is actually now a really good counter to fast champions, who typically, the type of champion you typically don't see in a Stone Skin set, and then there's some you can risk it against. So a classic champion basically never in Stone Skin would be Shuzen, Arbiter. Our base is an interesting. A lot of these champs are like increase attack champs at turn meter boost. Our base is a spicy one. She's like sometimes in Stone Skin. The Lizard, Lazarius, again, often in Stone Skin, but sometimes he's fast and he's not. Champions like that. I mean, Aestrid actually be another example of a champ that's semi-common now in Arena and typically not in Stone Skin. Fast champions, and they're typically looking to go fast and to bomb you or one-shot you through your Stone Skin, that sort of thing. He's really strong against those speed champs. Like Shuzen can be tough to fight against. Hegemon can one-shot her. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So Hegemon, he came back from the grave. Actually well worth adding to your arsenal now. Now, another champion, I know this one is debatable on whether or not she was power crept, but Duchess Lilitu, in my opinion, absolutely was a champion that was power crept. Again, at one point would have been the best champion you could possibly pull on your account. I think that place has certainly been eclipsed. I think Star Sage Galathir is basically the Duchess of the modern age for now. And who knows, maybe we'll get a mythical that will be what Star Sage Galathir is to Duchess, this new mythical void at some point. Who knows, will be what he is to her. That new void will be to him. It will be another level of power creep. But yeah, there was a lot more alternatives to Duchess, like Feral, what's his name? I can never remember. Glaykid of the Meltwater. Lots of other good revivers with turn meter, lots of other good people with perfect veil. And again, to be clear, Duchess was never a bad champion, and she is still to this day not a bad champion by any means. She is a fantastic champion. She is just not the god. She's gone down a tier from the absolute god, best champ in the game, to just being a very good one. But she's been unpower crept a bit. She stepped back up the ladder a little bit. What? What's going on? Well, it's thanks to a little man named Volcanos or Volcanos. Who knows what he's called? Volcanos, let's say. But yeah, Volcanos, the faction unity for the demon spawn, and with his crazy passive, he loves these tankier teams where you sit back, let the enemy buff up, and just kill themselves. Well, Duchess suddenly comes in because you're limited very much to demon spawn. She comes in and is an amazing partner to him, and she then opens you up as well if you're going into, and it happens in live Arena, to building a very demon spawn heavy team to make use of Volcanos. Duchess comes in as a great support to Carnage, extremely good. Pretty good with Komidus as well. Cheshire Cat is in there too. Duchess suddenly re-emerges as this tanky linchpin that can hold the team together. So yeah, Duchess. Funny enough, way back in the day, you saw her all the time in Arena. Then she really fell off. You still see her again from time to time, but nowhere near as often. But yeah, I see her a lot again with Volcanos. So this is very recent that she has really resurged in that Arena meta. Next up then, we've got a champion I talked about regretting getting a 6-star soul for him. It was Necmo Thaar. So Necmo Thaar, funny enough, when he came out, I remember doing a video about how he's insane. And one of the best Hydra champions ever. And I remember just so many comments saying this guy sucks. And hey, who knew? A little while went by and everyone was like, actually, yeah, this guy's insane for Hydra. And for a while, he was like the Hydra goat, right? You know, he didn't have a Krisk. Necmo Thaar is the next best thing. He's a monster. And that was true for a while. But then times changed. More champions came out. We mentioned Aestra Dreamsong. Recently, I felt that actually having played with her, that she effectively power crept Necmo. The defensive buffs of the Leech and the decreased attack from Necmo were becoming less important, whereas the increased attack and the weakened debuffs from Aestrad were becoming just more and more important as the Hydra meta evolved. And Necmo Thaar, while still a really good champion, was sort of, you know, falling off use, not being that useful anymore. And then along came the Chimera. And the Chimera said, well, turn meter boosting is amazing. Increased speed is almost essential. Decreased speed is amazing. And there's even a trial, in fact, 3 trials that are locked behind having a Leech debuff. And you want decreased attack as well. You even have a speed aura for Chimera. Necmo Thaar said, hello, I am your guy. Bring me in. Slap me in there with the Lydia and the Galathier. And yeah, you've got yourself a team, my friend. You've got yourself a team. So yeah, Necmo Thaar. He came in as a Hydra god. Slowly became less relevant, and boom, he shot to the top as a Chimera god again. I did get comments of people saying, now, why do you regret your 6-star soul, seeing as he has become, because I know he's become exceptionally good for Chimera, but the reality is, again, I bought that 6-star soul with the red essence. I'm like, I feel like he'd do most of what he's doing anyway. I mean, he's a little bit better with the 6-star soul, but it's not making or breaking the team. Whereas I'd rather have invested that ultimately into an arena champion. That's going back to a video from maybe a week or so ago by the time this one goes live. Next up then, this is a spicy one because this champion, I think you might have even forgotten that he was considered bad. You might be like, wait, has this champion not always been god tier? And that's Komidus. Komidus Dark Smile. But it's true, when he first came out, I think a lot of people thought that he sucked. And they're like, this guy, he's got a nice kit, but he's just going to be Polymorph Magnet, right? He's just going to be polymorphing himself left, right, and center, switching over to bomb people, polymorph, polymorph, polymorph. This guy is just going to be a sheep the whole time. And then, you know, Pinpoint set happened. Pinpoint happened, time went on, and Komidus, I'm sure you know now, it's well known now, really, that Komidus is just one of the best champions in the entire game for Arena, full stop. He is just unbelievably strong. But yeah, again, this is Pinpoint really changed the game. For bomb champions in general, we could probably include every single bomb champion on this list of champions that really went, well, with, you know, Polymorph, they really fell off. Then the Stone Skin taking more damage from bombs. It was like, okay, but still Polymorph. And then Pinpoint came out, and suddenly you're going like, ooh, these CC champs, these buff strippers, these bomb champs, suddenly way better than they used to be. So there you go. Now, if that one was controversial because you forgot that Komidus was ever considered to be not good, next pick is a champion that has always been considered to be good, but I think has seen a bit of a resurgence. And I think there's an interesting case study, and that's Rotos, the Lost Groom. Rotos, the Lost Groom. Again, clearly he's never been bad. He's clearly always been one of the best champions in the game. But again, if we go back, you know, a couple of years, 3 years maybe, Rotos, absolute god in Arena. Absolute top tier, just a monster. In fact, he was even nerfed way back when. I think that was before I even was playing the game. But he's brilliant, brilliant Arena champion. But then a couple of things happened that knocked Rotos down several pegs. Number one, everybody getting Ultimate Death Knight as a free login champion. And Ultimate Death Knight basically being the meta alongside Taurus and Marishka for a couple of years. We also saw Harima come in, and her passive really neutering Rotos, and her triple hit A2, again, really destroying Rotos. And Rotos pushed even further out of the meta. Not a bad champion, no, still an extremely strong champion, but hard countered by two of the most common champions in the game in Arena. Well, again, we're looking at this now in 2025. I would say both UDK and Harima are not as common anymore. They're still common. They're still around, but you don't see them anywhere near as much because they're simply being mythicals and faction unities and new crazy void legendaries. And the pinpoint set has brought a whole bunch of new champions back into the game that did not exist before. And those champions that hard countered Rotos are not quite as common. Now, yeah, you do still see a lot of Arbase at high end. She is super common, and she is very much like UDK in form too, with the taunt for 2 turns and Stone Skin. But nonetheless, and the good affinity, nonetheless, Rotos has certainly come back where there are less counters to him commonly seen than there were before. I mean, you'll still see it. You pick a Rotos in live arena, expect an ultimate Death Knight to come out against you. But it's often they're now giving up, whereas I think before, you know, putting an ultimate Death Knight into your team in arena, well, it's just great. I think now you're giving up a lot more, right? There could be a stronger, more proactive champion that you could be using. On top of that, in fact, I've got them on my Rotos right now. A couple of nice things. So Merciless set, particularly the 9-piece Merciless, as time has gone on, some of you, I'm now able to do it as of like the last month or so. Some of you might be able to do it, but getting Rotos into that 9-piece Merciless is just insane. Reducing a cooldown, when you combine that with the Cycle of Violence Mastery, every now and then, he can do his A3 twice in a row, and it's just disgusting. Boom, 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 everything dies. The extra turn on his 9-piece is so strong because, again, stacking up his other extra turns from his other moves, and each of his moves has such a short cooldown and is so powerful, he can really just rinse through an entire enemy team with some lucky procs. But I think the relic system also caters to him very well. The aspect of Siroth, famous for being insane on Rotos. You smack him, and he's getting an extra turn because of his passive anyway. So he doesn't care. He does not care that his turn meter is fully reduced. He lived a move that he otherwise wouldn't have. He's got his extra turn, and he's going to go ham, and he's going to kill you. So, yeah, the aspect of Siroth has been big for him. I think just the gems and stuff like that in general also fit really well with Rotos. This is a champion that scales incredibly well and just manages to remain relevant to a shocking degree. Okay, we talked about a couple of champs in a row there that have always really been considered to be, or for most of their history, be considered to be extremely good. Let's talk about a champion who is really not. And that's Sir Nicholas. I think he was considered to be extremely good when he first came out. But certainly, even by the time I started playing the game, he was still considered to be good, but he's really been falling off hard. And certainly since he came back recently, people, consider him to be absolutely terrible. Let's see what his reviews like. Yeah, look at these reviews. Now, I am here to tell you that I actually disagree with these ratings. And what unpowercrept him a little bit, it's funny enough, he's still a pretty bad champion, but Lady Noelle is so good that they are actually quite decent together. And Sir Nicholas actually becomes pretty good, really just because of Lady Noelle. Just because of that. He's actually quite good now. He's still really old. He still doesn't do anything that's that amazing, but the reality is when she comes in and she activates his A2, he activates his A3, with her A2, it's phenomenally strong. And I did a whole video on this, but I've got my spicy build that I like on Sir Nicholas, and I think the two of them together are really good with this. And it's the damage 9-piece protection build. Yeah. Have you kept any damage pieces in protection? Well, if you have, you are in luck. Sir Nicholas, build him for damage, and he's actually quite nice, right? He doesn't hit that hard, so you don't really want to waste your merciless or your lethal gear on this guy. But he does put out a lot of buffs, and he's just going to get some damage boost from the protected buffs. And yeah, he becomes a monster. You put him with Lady Noelle, and he becomes, with 9-piece protection, and protected unkillable spam champion. This guy will spam protected unkillable on your team, and it's really frustrating for people to deal with, I think. So yeah, Sir Nicholas, I know this is a spicy one. People are going to be like, no, he still sucks. But no, I think Sir Nicholas, I actually do use him. Yeah, I actually use him. It was fun. I picked them in live arena the other day, actually, which is risky to do. Someone banned the Noelle. We still won. So that felt fun to win with Sir Nicholas, which was a bit of a laugh. Because yeah, again, like he's genuinely, he's not totally useless. He's actually pretty decent in arena, but only with her. Without Lady Noelle, you know, he could still do the protected and killable on his own. I think the 9-piece protection Sir Nicholas is actually quite a good build that redeems him in a lot of ways. But it becomes a lot more difficult to use. It's better when she's fast and she can activate his A3 herself. But the final champion that I want to talk about today is Packmaster Shy'ek. This one, ooh, this is again, it's a bit of a cheeky one. Because obviously, or well, I don't know, is it even obvious? We certainly hope that this is a champion that will definitely fit this list even better in the future. Because my oh my, the whole gimmick with him is that he synergizes with the hounds in the game, and Plarium, of course, said there will be new hounds to go with him. And here we are, months later. Nobody's seen any hounds. I don't know. I'm recording this as a video for when I go away on holiday. Hey, who the heck knows? Actually, I think we are due new champions for like a fusion and stuff. Maybe the hounds are here. Maybe the hounds are amongst us right now as we speak. And Nub, me from a couple of days in the past or whatever, just doesn't know. It's possible. It actually could happen. So maybe you're like, Nub, no one fits this list better than Packmaster Shy'ek. We've got these insane hounds. They added 10 hounds in the new patch. It's all dogs everywhere. He's insane. Well, obviously, if that's not in the current patch, I'm sure it will happen. Not the 10 hounds, but I'm sure there will be another hound eventually. One day, it will surely happen. I mean, it will definitely happen eventually. It's just the question of when. But it's not about that. I think with Packmaster Shy'ek, obviously everyone is waiting for that unpower creepness to happen. But with him specifically, one of the big things I saw people say was when they nerfed Taunt for Hydra, Packmaster Shy'ek is dead. He's a useless fusion. That's what I saw a lot of people saying. No use, no purpose for this champion anymore. There's no good hounds and he's bad. Well, you were missing, so that may be clear. Again, he's not like the best champion in the game, but he's actually quite decent. I personally don't use him much, but he does have a place, which I think a lot of people have missed. In fact, I missed it when he first came out. I didn't realize because the wording on it is kind of ambiguous, but it's actually very good. So at a simple level, when he's attacked, he puts Hex on the attacker for 1 turn. Okay. Ally attacks on targets under Hex, placed by this champion, deal 20% more damage. This is very unclear because obviously we look at this, and especially because he has ally attack, like teams up with allies. One is A1. You're thinking, okay, well, ally attacks, like a Lady Mikage or a Fark in the Fat, they do 20% more damage. That's cool, that's good, but it's not that insane. Well, what this actually does is it would be clearer, I think, to word it, that enemies under Hex placed by this champion take 20% more damage. It's just a 20% damage boost that enemies take when they're under Hex that he places, which suddenly makes him very good. If you're fighting enemies that are actually attacking him and hitting him, they just take 20% more damage, and it's a unique multiplier. And I think that's very powerful. And certainly, we've seen the value of stuff like that with things like Feral Set, Protection Set, and so on. In fact, you could put him in a Feral Set. It would actually work pretty well. That's another nice thing you could do with him, which would be kind of cool. Again, I think he also has got a place for event dungeons. Turn meter boost, AoE block buffs is not too bad. The taunt has some potential. This is certainly a champion with potential. And yeah, if you're thinking that he absolutely sucks, I think that's not quite true, because it is actually genuinely extremely strong passive. And yeah, stay tuned, brace yourself, because genuinely, whenever a good hound comes out that teams up with this guy, he could actually make it into some really strong teams. So yeah, Packmaster Shy'ek. We'll see. Some of it is still in the future, but some of it, the future is also right now. 20% of it, at least. And there you go, guys. There's my list. 7 champions. 7 champions I thought that definitely had fallen off, or were not considered good, or were considered good, but not used as commonly as before. That I think even in 2025, I've seen a bit of an increase in usage, or actually, going on, there's more to these champions than we realized, or actually, you can use these champions more now than maybe you could in the past. So there you go. They are my picks. Yes. Let me know. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree with the list? And more importantly, is there anyone I missed? So I'm sure there are some. I was like trying to rack my brains for champions to put on this list. I feel like there's definitely going to be like an obvious example that I've totally overlooked. Yeah, there's got to be, right? I don't know. Let me know. Let me know. But thanks for watching, and I will catch you all next time. Goodbye.